Hey, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Nintendo's strategy and some big things that are happening for 2022 as we get fully into the second half of the year. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and first start off with Nintendo's summer plans. We do know that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is launching very soon here. That's going to be a big driver for this summer for Nintendo. That's pretty much going to carry them through August, but obviously we have other games that are going to be big for summer as well, like Splatoon 3. That's going to be a massive game with a lot of people buying it and having fun. It's right there at the tail end of summer, but still part of that first attack for Nintendo in the second half of 2022. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course, we need to get some more information on that when those courses are coming. Also, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, that's going to continue selling throughout the summer, as well as like an auxiliary or kind of supplementary game to all the other big games that Nintendo does have. Mario Strikers Battle League, we still need the first DLCs for that. So I think between those 5 different games, that's a pretty stacked and good summer for Nintendo, and we should see big Switch sales continue on throughout the summer because of the type of content they have, in addition to the previously released content Nintendo has already done. So not bad for the summer. But let's talk about some other things that people want to discuss, and that is the second half and what Nintendo is going to be doing for the fall and winter. So I think that the big third-party ports and big third-party games that are coming from Square Enix and other developers are going to be key for Nintendo in that second half. That's the reason why we did get a third-party Nintendo Direct, because some of those games are obviously pretty shocking games to come to Nintendo Switch, or games that people have been asking for literally years. So games like Persona 5, that is a game that people have just been begging for, and I've made multiple videos on when it comes to if it's going to be on the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people didn't feel like it was ever going to come to the platform, but now we do know that yes, it's coming to all the platforms. It's coming to Xbox, coming to PC, and it's also coming to Nintendo Switch. So that is a very good thing, and that should be a massive seller on the Nintendo Switch, even though it is a 3-year-old port at this point. I think it was 2019 when Persona 5 Royal came out. The original Persona 5 came out back in 2017, 2016 in Japan. So although it is a bit old, it doesn't really mean anything, guys. Persona 5 is going to sell like hotcakes on the Nintendo Switch. People love playing Persona Portable, and this is the best version of Persona 5, which is the best selling Persona game in the whole series, so expect that to do extremely well. Also, surprising ports like Nier Automata are coming to Nintendo Switch early October. Persona is October as well. That is a huge month for Nintendo coming off of the month of Splatoon 3. They are hitting strong with multiple different games. So that is definitely part of the attack that Nintendo's trying to do in this, I would say, somewhat twilight years of the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, they're working on something new, which we'll talk about in just a bit here. So there are quite a number of games, third-party games, that people are going to be excited for the second half, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo's going to be excited for when those royalties come in. Now, another game that hasn't really gotten super big mainstream attraction, but I think that it's going to have a little bit of a cult hit, and that is Harvestella. That's another big game from Square Enix, and it's not a port. It's actually a brand new game built for the Nintendo Switch. It's going to be Switch and PC right now. Maybe it comes over to other platforms later, but obviously the Switch was in mind when they were making this game. So it's really cool to see Square Enix's take on Harvest Moon or Rune Factory, because it kind of looks more like what a Square Enix game would look like, and I kind of like the aesthetic a lot more than what we've seen before from some of these other types of games that do the same type of thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Harvestella has in store for us. Now, the big games when it comes to the second half as well, fall, winter, obviously we've got Bayonetta 3, and we've also got Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Those are going to be massive big games for Nintendo and help drive the system in October. October is just nuts in general. But Bayonetta 3, we just got a release date trailer. It's coming out at the very end, October 28th. That is extremely hype. The game is running and looking absolutely fantastic. I love what I've seen from Bayonetta 3 so far. They really improved the game over from when we saw it last year at the end, and that's exactly what we need to see with a lot of these big Switch games that are coming out at the tail end of its life. They're seeing that they are taking advantage of the Nintendo Switch system. They are really using everything that it got, and looking at the game, obviously it's an improvement over Bayonetta 2 that was on the Wii U and also the Nintendo Switch. So they are improving things. The story looks like they're improving the story as well. Looks like it's going to be a bit more dynamic Bayonetta stories are always kind of weird. The storytelling's a little bit weird as well, but it looks like this one's just going to be just as weird, but they've added in familiar faces, new different outfits, but then they've also have new characters as well, like Viola. So I do love what they're doing with that game. So that's looking good for a second half for Nintendo as well. Plus Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I mean, the game, once again, just looks incredible. These games that are coming out at the end of Nintendo Switch's life that are built for the system are actually showing that this system, despite what people like to say, has a lot of juice left in the tank when it comes to if a developer wants to actually create a game for it. I think that these ports sometimes run into some issues, some of the ports, depending on who's developing the game. But when it comes to games built for the Nintendo Switch, where they have the adequate time and resources, I mean, Sparks of Hope just shows that, yeah, it's looking really good, because I love not only the graphical improvements, but the gameplay stuff has been big as well. I watched the gameplay showcase that they had, and they've just made some changes that I think that's really going to make this game jump out even faster than what Mario plus Rabbids did back in 2017. Plus, there's 100 million install base done at this point. I mean, these games are going to do extremely well because of that massive install base. So I like what I'm seeing so far there. Now, what we do know of, we know of one big holiday game that Nintendo does have, and that is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and that game is going to be massive as well. I mean, bigger than probably a lot of these games combined, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is the next actual generation of Pokemon, and they're doing a lot of things that fans have wanted for quite some time. We have a true open world Pokemon game where you can tackle your adventure when you want to. You can actually bring in friends from anywhere when it comes to the gameplay. You meet up like at these gas station Pokemon centers, and then you can just go out there and explore, play, fight, trade. It's no more structured so much. It's not so rigorous with the structure in terms of you're doing this, or you're doing this, or you're going to this thing. It's like, hey, just go out there and have fun. And I think that when it comes to a game like Pokemon, when it comes to certain games, that is probably the best structure, and something that I've been asking that Pokemon does for a long time. Pokemon Legends Arceus gave us a taste of that, but I do think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will actually be that true open world game that people have been wanting from Pokemon for quite some time. So I'm excited to see how this one shakes out, and the Pokemon design so far, the professors look good. I mean, everything is good. They've updated the graphics, still not exactly where maybe it needs to be, but at the end of the day, it is definitely a nice improvement, of course, over Pokemon Legends in some respects. And also, of course, Pokemon Sword and Shield, definitely better looking than that game, and also bigger as well. It's not just a wild area, now it's a whole big open world. So very excited about that. Now, I do think that there will be at least one more game. There could be a couple more that Nintendo does announce throughout the rest of the year, but I do think that there is at least one big game, and I'm going to go ahead and say what a lot of people have been saying, and that is the Metroid Prime remaster. You know, I've heard rumors about this for quite some time now, and I think that maybe it's finally time to have that. I think that it would be a good 1-2 punch to have a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in November. That's like mid-November-ish, and then also have a Metroid Prime remaster maybe early November, almost kind of like how it was Pokemon and also Shin Megami Tensei 5 last year. So I think that we could have that dynamic this year with Metroid Prime, with just like one kind of hardcore game that speaks to a certain audience, then another massive game that everyone is going to buy, like Pokemon. So Metroid Prime remaster, that could be it in November. I don't know when they're going to announce it. I just know that I think that they're going to have Metroid Prime remaster this year. Now, I could be wrong. Obviously, it's just more of a prediction on this end, but there's just so much smoke that there has to be a fire at this point when it comes to these Metroid Prime remasters or these Metroid Prime games. So we'll see exactly how Nintendo decides to handle it. If it's going to be a Metroid Prime remaster to where it's a really hardcore, really good remaster, or maybe it's a trilogy and they have Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, and it's more of like 1080p, 60 frames per second type of deal. So we'll see exactly how they decide to handle it. But either way, I think I'd be excited just to see some Metroid Prime coming back. Metroid Prime fans have been waiting patiently for, or maybe not so patiently in some respects, but they've been waiting when it comes to a new Metroid Prime game. Dread came out last year and it was phenomenal. So I do think now is the time for a Metroid Prime game. And I think that Metroid Prime 4 probably gets announced, or at least we get the first footage of Metroid Prime 4 at something that we're going to talk about, which is a Nintendo Direct. A lot of you guys have been asking about that. So let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of the Nintendo Direct discussion. Obviously, Nintendo didn't have a big like first party type of Nintendo Direct this year, which I do feel was because of the quality of third-party games like Harvestella, like Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Persona games coming, Nier coming. I think that they wanted to give those games a spotlight and not really be overshadowed with games that probably aren't going to be launching this year because of development cycles and what Nintendo wants to do. Now, we know about a Fire Emblem game that is pretty much done or almost done, and I'm pretty sure that they're just fine-tuning or they're just getting that ready to go, and it's probably ready if they really needed it this year, but they just don't. They just don't need it necessarily this year, or at least they don't need to announce it, not at this point, so they can wait for that. So maybe that happens at a Nintendo Direct in September or October. Now, things are a little bit wonky, right? Because Nintendo did have a third-party Direct in June, so they could not necessarily do their normal September Direct. It could be October or November. They could kind of shift things around. You also have to factor in when they're deciding to reveal the next Nintendo Switch system. If it's a next-gen Nintendo Switch, if it's a kind of current-gen upgrade type of thing from the Nintendo Switch to a Switch Pro, we just don't know at this point, and I'm pretty sure that they're figuring out exactly how they're going to get things done. But I do feel that there will be another Nintendo Direct later in the year as we get closer to the first half or first quarter of 2023. So the one thing that I personally don't like is when they announce games and they're like 2, 3, 4 years ahead of time and they're just not ready. I kind of like to have a Nintendo Direct that's full of games that are coming out sometime soon. So I just think that right now, most of the games that Nintendo's looking at, they're probably going to be 2023 games because this year is already packed with Xenoblade and with Splatoon and with Bayonetta and with Mario plus Rabbids and with a bunch of big third-party ports. So I think this year they're good. You know, Pokemon's going to be huge as well. Probably that Metroid Prime or something else. Advance Wars still needs to come out as well. So I think that they're probably just going to wait, hold off, and then as we get closer to that first quarter of 2023, we do get some type of Nintendo Direct showing off what they're going to have then. But those are my thoughts when it comes to what Nintendo is doing for this second half and some of the exciting things that I'm looking forward to. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.